much any guitarist would agree that noise and hum are annoying. Obviously it's particularly bad with single coil pickups. So today I'm going to try to do something about that. Got some all parts copper shielding tape and going to try to shield the control cavity and see what we can do to cut down on some of that excess noise that comes out of this thing. You might not have as bad as I do, but I have dimmer switches and all kinds of crazy electronic crap going all the time, so anything I can do to cut down on the excess noise is a good thing. So let's see what happens. Alright, so I'm partway through shielding the cavity. Gonna have to close up that gap down there in the corner. And so far my experience with it has been, however horrible and annoying you think it's going to be, just imagine it being 5 times worse than that and you'll pretty much be able to know what to expect. Alright, so my earlier protestations aside, this stuff is actually not that bad. It molds really, really well. It's easy, it's easy to get it shaped like you want to. It sticks really well. Definitely seems to be on there. The only thing that I'm worried about is, since the cavity is so deep, I had to do 2 layers. I don't know if you can see that, but there's 2 layers there, and all the pieces are supposed to be connected together with solder. So that sounds like that's going to be a colossal pain in the ass, but we will see what happens. Tempted to just take a multimeter to it and see if it's, if it's all connected according to the multimeter. Just say screw it on the whole solder thing, but no, can't do that. Have to at least try. Here is the screw hole. You see the little tab of shielding there. That's for the plate, because apparently that's where your ground's going to be once it's screwed down. So anyway, another thing, if you have a chance to do it before you've wired everything up, like if you're already going to switch out the pots and everything, I would really suggest that, because I'm not the most patient person in the world, which is kind of odd that my hobbies all involve, being patient and steady. but yeah, I'm not the most patient person in the world, and I definitely had to resist the urge to manhandle my electronics a couple times when I was guiding them around trying to work with the surface. So here we are, we've got the foil in there. I'm going to try to connect it up with the solder. I'm hoping that it makes a difference. I'm not shielding the pickup cavities yet. Also, there's excuse me, there's this channel here under the pick guard that I definitely wouldn't mind shielding, but right now I'm going to start with just the cavity, because I've read conflicting reports and 100-page threads on the gear page talking about whether or not you should shield the pickup cavities, or how much it affects the sound. So since I'm pretty attached to the way these pickups sound, honestly I think they're pretty great in their own weird way. I might change my mind, but right now I think they have a very unique character and they sound exactly like you want them to sound. But yeah, so for now we're gonna ride these pickups out, and I'm just gonna try to get the guitar as quiet as I can. But like I said, we're just going to start off with this, and I made a recording before I started any of the shielding process, and I'm going to make a comparison, and hopefully I don't cry. But honestly, this hasn't been that bad. At very least it's a learning experience. So anyway, I'm going to try to get the measurements of the depth of the cavity, so that hopefully other folks that try to do this same thing, if you watch this video, you'll be able to buy tape that's closer to the right width the first time. But anyway, so let's see what happens next. Alright, so here we have my soldering job. Probably not fantastic, but it will do. And I've taken my multimeter here, and I've touched pretty much every location on the guitar, or every part of the cavity, to confirm that they're all connected together. So it says OL, and then when I touch part of it, it jumps up. But yeah, I've checked it over. Everything looks good. So now I'm just going to close her up and hope that I didn't yank any wires off when I was, you know, pulling this thing around. Let's see what happens. Alright, so we're back. Sort of an informal test. I hooked up my practice amp. Well, my battery amp. I have a couple practice amps, but I hooked up my battery amp, and you can hear, ooh, doesn't like the camera apparently. You can hear the middle position, which is, you know, typically very, very quiet, which it is now, and then the bridge position. So not what I would call super awesome. I did check the shielding over, make sure that everything was connected like I showed you before. It's kind of like, I'm not really sure what to think yet, because this amp's kind of noisy anyway. It's not, you know, fantastic, but it is certainly not encouraging. So we'll see what happens next. I'm going to try to hook it up to the computer and make another recording, see if it's as noisy as it was before, and we'll see what happens. Alright, so I have taken off the pick guard for the first time. One thing I wanted to point out was that the pick guard screws are in there really tight, and you want to be careful when you go to take them out that you don't strip them, so make sure you pick up a screwdriver that fits really well, and you actually have to keep a pretty constant downward pressure when you're unscrewing them, just so that the screwdriver doesn't slip out of the hole. Another observation is that the pickup cavities have a fair amount of dust in them. I've cleaned this one out, but you can see it, some of it in the corners there. You're going to want to try to blow as much of that out as you can if you have canned air or something like this. Or, you know, you could take a wet paper towel and wipe it out, but you just want to be able to make sure that the shielding has so the adhesive will stick. So hopefully you can see here what I'm trying to do is run one continuous piece of shielding tape starting here all the way up around here and then filling in the corners, and then I've gotten down to here. So hopefully I can make it around, and it'll just be easier to wire it that way because I won't have as many pieces of tape to connect. Alright, so I did actually manage to make it pretty much all the way around. It starts right in there, it goes up around in there, into there, and then it ends up right there. So now I just have to see if I can get the light over here. I just have to fill that gap down the center and up underneath the wire and behind the wire, and then that section in the middle. So it should be pretty clean. See what happens. Alright, so I've put another flat piece of shielding across the bottom of the cavity there. So far we have two pieces here. And because I'm crazy cheap, what I've done here is I'm cutting a third off there, and then I'll have 2/3 here, and I'm going to try to put the wider piece across that and then the skinnier piece across that. So let's see if it works. Alright, so if you look closely here, you can see where I ran the long piece from there to underneath the wire, and then the other rectangular piece all the way up to right there. and then I just have to put one more piece in the back there, and then I'll just have to connect this, 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 and the side, of course, and then that piece. I should also point out, now that I've got it all covered up, that that was the last of the 5-foot piece that I bought. I actually ordered a second one because I knew I was going to run out before I finished both. So, and the whole thing went in here. As a matter of fact, the last little scrap piece I had sitting right here was what I used to cover that spot up in the back. But I'm going to crack into the other pack and do this last cavity here, and that should be it. I'll have plenty left over from that. Just because I'm curious and cheap, I've decided to measure the 5-foot shielding tape to make sure it's actually 5 feet. Okay, so thanks to this handy device, I was able to determine that the shielding is actually 5 feet and 2 inches. We have here is a chip clip. I believe you UK folks would probably refer to it as a crisp caliper. Yeah. Alright, so we got the bridge piece taken off, and you can see that dusty stuff I was talking about before. See if we can. Looks like it's in there pretty good. So that should be good enough. Okay, so here we have a wire that's in there pretty tightly, the ground wire to the bridge, and then this pickup wire. So what I've tried to do to make it a little bit easier on myself is I took this and I cut some notches out of it. Now the small wire will go here, and then I cut the bigger notch out of this one for those, and I also put a small slit in it, so if I need to widen it, which I think I probably will, I'll just be able to pull it apart there. So we'll see how that goes. Alright, so we have another piece here. I cut a notch in it like here, and then ran it all the way around here to where the red wire is. So now I just have to line the bottom of it. Alright, so I've finished shielding the cavity, and it was 3 pieces. The one that I cut there, and then the one that goes all the way around, and then one across the bottom. And I ran it up the side here, and I put copper shielding on the inside of the bridge plate here, or you know what I mean when I say bridge plate, this thing. So I ran it up the side here so that they'll make contact, and then the pick guard I'm planning on doing it with aluminum foil, but this one just seemed like it'd be a pain to do that way, so I just went ahead and slapped the tape on there and cut it out with an X-Acto knife. From the other side, I just kind of cut around the inside edge on a block of wood and pulled it out. It's thicker than it seems, though. It took a couple tries to get it to come loose. I was looking at the Wilkinson pickups, and I don't really see any wax where it's supposed to be potted. Notice this one has a little 50-1 on the front there, whereas this one, when you look at the bobbin, there isn't anything. I also notice they have these holes that seem to run straight through. I don't know that much about wax, but I would think that if they'd been soaked in wax, that some of it would still be in there. But maybe not. Just kind of curious. You can see on the other side where the pole pieces show. Alright, so now I'm going to try to shield a pickguard with some aluminum foil, because apparently that's a thing. Got a glue stick here. Going to apply some to the back of the pickguard. Alright, so I applied the glue to the back of the pickguard, smeared it around really good, and then I flipped it over onto the foil, and we'll see how well it sticks. I don't think it has to stick that well, because once it's screwed down, that's going to be enough to hold it on, but just got to make sure it's well affixed enough to sandwich in there. Right, I have it laid out on a box. I'm going to trim around the outside with the X-Acto knife. Alright, so it's not exactly perfect, but this is not going to be the final pickguard anyway, so not going to spend too much time worrying about it. I just have to trim around on this side and it'll be done. Okay, so what I've done, I've soldered a wire here and here and connected them to the tone pot, and I've tested with the multimeter. It's all connected. I put that piece of tape there to connect to the aluminum foil on the back of the pickguard. So looks like it's ready to put back together. So the cavity is about 1.5 inches deep. Alright, so I've decided to shield the hole for the input jack. So you can see here I've got the copper tape. I'm going to probably end up putting 3 pieces in there, and instead of soldering it to the rest of them, I'm going to overlap some of it right here around the hole, and then the plate will make contact with that, which should make it ground just fine. And you can see right in there where it goes right up against where the other one is. As you can see, now it looks all NASA up in there. So I screwed all 4 screws in, but loosely, so I could still wiggle the jack plate around and look underneath. Then I made sure that nothing was poking out around the edges, and now I'm just tightening down the screws. Alright, so with everything shielded out the wazoo, this is what we got so far. Yay! So, obviously, I guess if I want it much quieter than that, I'm going to have to look at some different pickups. But anyway, hopefully you learned a little bit more about how to shield a guitar, and what to expect and possibly what not to expect. Thanks for watching.
Okay, so as promised, I'm going to show you the difference between the unshielded guitar, the guitar with only the control cavity shielded, and then the guitar with full shielding from the pickups to the jack hole. Here we go with the unshielded guitar. guitar with full shielding. You're hearing it right now. And that's me switching between the pickups. I didn't change any settings. I definitely did notice this kind of improvement on the back. Now I'm stopping this thing just to make sure it's actually working because it's so quiet. I'm sure some of it has to be the noise gate and the guitar lick kicking in, but it seems strange that it would only work on this one. But you hear how quiet it is. So, I guess it wasn't as much of a failure as it appeared with the